Hey there! Before you proceed, the following game in this review is intended for a mature and adult audience. While no adult content will be present on screen, this game does contain themes and mentions of some subjects viewers may find upsetting, such as sexual content, blood, death, violence, bullying/mistreatment of others, implied ableism, and familiar and parental trauma. Please proceed with caution and keep in mind this review will also contain spoilers. Thanks for watching! Hello everyone, welcome to the first installment of The Sprout Speaks, where I, HazelMememita, will be your personal guide as we dive into the world of visual novels, more specifically, indie visual novels. I'll be bringing my personal reviews to you as a frequent consumer of this genre. Before we get started, I have a few quick disclaimers. While this is a review and I will be presenting my own opinion on several quality points that affect how these games and storytelling experiences stand up to my own expectations, these reviews are in no way meant to demean the efforts the devs put into these projects, because a lot goes into producing any kind of game, and sometimes these projects may be amazing to the audience they are meant to target, but it simply just isn't meant for myself and my own tastes. I do not believe any media is always just good or bad, and can be very much intended for a certain kind of viewer, and that viewer isn't always me. Thus, please understand that if you enjoy a title in this series, you are always valid for enjoying it, or not, and having your own experience even if it conflicts with my own. Please enjoy what you do, and don't, to the fullest. My words and opinions are simply my own, not meant to be taken as facts, and again, not meant to take a dig at any of the devs or their team. These teams work hard to produce these projects. And with that, let's get the ball rolling. Today, we will be reviewing The Groom of Gallagher Mansion. This ever-so-eerie romance visual novel was released in September of 2023 and is produced and published by Snack Pop Studios, an indie studio which strives to explore stories focused on fan service with masculine characters, while also including a focus on gender neutrality for their player characters. I came across this game while tracking LGBTQIA+ game projects and had it on my wishlist for some time to test out. Snack Pop Studios also has a few other projects under their belt that I plan to check out, including a title recommended to me some time ago called Something Wrong with Sunny Day Jack, which I have a lot of words on and will be tackling in another video when the final release of this game is announced. The Groom of Gallagher Mansion focuses on the past life of the lonesome groom, Elias Gallagher, who met an untimely death just before he could be wed to his betrothed. The player, alongside their best friend and fellow paranormal club member Taylor, attempts to investigate the secrets surrounding the manor by summoning the ghost of Elias and proving his existence. But will their curiosity cause them more pain than it's worth? Let's see if this charming ghost wins our heart, if we can solve the mysteries around his mansion lost in time, and if our paranormal club's risks are worth the reward. For these reviews, I'll be focusing on the criteria that jumps out at me most when it comes to visual novels. These can vary depending on the game's genre itself. As this game's primary focus is providing a romantic experience to its players, we'll be putting focus on the following points of interest: storytelling and romanceable characters, artwork and visuals, my overall experience with the game, and I want to touch briefly on accessibility and inclusion. So let's get into this by breaking down our story first. Of course, given this review will cover the game in its entirety, there are spoilers ahead. You have been warned. If you want to take time to play this game on your own and come back, this is your last warning. Now, our story begins outside the elusive manor of the Gallagher family. A family of luxury and status of the Victorian era, one surrounded in gruesome tragedy that has spread whispers and ghost tales for what works within the mansion they left behind to rot. Though it has become more just of a place for secret college hangouts with drinking and boozing more than anything else. Our player or main character stands just outside its walls as our tale begins, here on a mission to investigate just what hides within the haunting presence of the old building. Why this mission? Well, to save the reputation and status of our paranormal club, of course. The Occult History and Science Investigation Club, or OHSIC, is a paranormal and spiritual investigation group at the college our character attends. With only ourselves and the club president Taylor to make up its entirety, we are currently at risk for being disbanded by the faculty. In a last-ditch attempt to avoid our precious club room and resources being passed off to the juggling club? And to obtain new members, we head to the mansion to prove the existence of its resident ghost, Elias Gallagher, who is said to have been killed just before he could wed his betrothed. This untimely demise laced in mystery. ending the life of the final member of the Gallagher family and leaving behind the family's prized inheritance to never be found. We now intend to enter this mansion and summon his presence. Donned in our own choice of wedding attire and with Taylor in our ear via a sweet Bluetooth earbud, we saunter our way in and fall to our knees in sorrow, crying out as we scatter the petals of a single rose to the ground like a broken-hearted soul who is left at the altar stranded. Much to our own surprise, the ghost of Elias is real and here, and he wants to mend the broken heart of a kindred spirit, one who was also robbed of their happiness just as he was. While making my little gay heart swoon, we'll prepare to help Elias get his wish of being wed to his beloved, us. While Taylor offers support and commentary through our earbud, this is our main source of intel on the past history of Elias and the mansion itself. From him, we learn that due to what is said to be a horrible curse or maybe an elaborate scheme by Elias himself, the family line all perished in unique and individual tragedies. Elias being given the blame due to his family exiling and isolating him due to being born with a poor constitution, which we learn was only the start of his struggles later in the story. Each member of the Gallagher family, starting with the oldest siblings, was picked off one by an unfortunate event or accident, all unique and unrelated. Soon enough, the heads of the family, Elias's parents, are on the chopping block, leaving Elias as the sole heir to the Gallagher name. But even he was not safe from tragedy, killed the night before his wedding day, leaving him a sorrowful groom-to-be, never wed and never loved. When we meet with Elias once more after being separated from him and getting this intel, he presents us with what we need to prepare for our wedding post-haste. This man is ready to spouse us up as soon as possible, right that second if he could. A broken heart should be mended sooner rather than later. And he has also waited decades for this, more than a century even. As to not be dragged away to our ghostly honeymoon in the next 10 minutes, we offer to get to know him while making the needed arrangements. A bouquet, a cake, and a selected prized piece of the family jewels. With this agreement made, we then go to investigate the mansion a little, learning more about the manor, its history, and raising more questions around Elias, what influence he holds over the mansion itself, and where we may end up if things don't go as planned. As we make the preparations needed, we are met with a few different story paths. You have two unique romance-centered paths with Elias or Taylor, a path to solve the mystery around the Gallagher family curse, and a little secret path that I'll leave for the end. I'll be covering these in the order I ended up playing first, and these will be done as a quick and brief overview. I'll be keeping some details more vague to allow for those who haven't played to still enjoy these twists. Solving the mysteries behind the Gallagher family curse and Elias's death was my first instinct in my first run of the story. Each path is determined by the choices you make for the three preparations for the wedding. By selecting certain choices, you will also trigger glimpses into Elias's life, his emotions, and secrets. First, around his fiancée and the terror he felt for her. You can get a chance to feel and see what it was like to be around her through Elias's eyes, and the fear he felt when she drove a knife towards him. We learn of his family's mistreatment of him, bullied by his siblings, too weak and outnumbered to defend himself, his parents throwing him to the side like an unwanted object, his concerns and pain always falling on deaf ears, dismissed no matter his frustration and pleas. So much so that when a precious keepsake is destroyed, the blame is easily placed on him. It was not only something important to him, but an item from his grandmother meant to be gifted to who he would marry. Our character and Taylor get a hunch that this incident and the object never being fixed and gifted as intended started the curse. This inkling we have is what we go on to round out this story. Before Elias has the chance to marry us, Taylor comes to stop this absurd wedding in which he also professes his objection to the situation with his own feelings of affection towards the player. We explain the truth to Elias and what we have discovered. To help break the curse and let Elias pass on, we will marry him in name alone, and he can give us the precious heirloom as planned. And with that, we also obtain the Gallagher name, the family inheritance, and enough money to save our club with the help of the family jewels. Now, this base story is great. I like the little twist and to see the emotion they wanted to put in Elias's character. For those who have struggled with family trauma or rejection, it's easy to relate to the rejection and mistreatment that others put him through. It was sweet, simple, and to the point while being very silly and enjoyable all the way through. Though, with how it was paced, I had assumed I had put myself on the route to kiss the sweet ghost man, and was a little disappointed when I didn't get to. And the crux of the curse resting on an heirloom being broken was a little unexpected. I was waiting for there to be some big legend that caused it or something. Seeing, a whole family line was taken out, and Elias was also the only ghost of his kind present despite it. But overall, it was very cute, and I loved getting to explore this little curse and ghost story. Next up is Elias's romance, which if you can't already tell, I have a bias for him. I was very excited to get to kiss the cute little ghost. I mean, he isn't like little, but you know. Most of the routes play along the same general story, except with some key events swapped out to fit the choices you make. The biggest difference being some cute moments or flirting here and there for our romance-focused routes. Like finding Elias's collection of romance novels and smut. Asking if he's ever been intimate with anyone. Whoa. And of course, digging deeper into his relationships with himself and his family. It's clear in all routes to me that Elias struggles with his self-image and self-confidence, yet tries to always be kind despite the judgment he casts on himself. It's admirable. You may also learn just how unfortunate his story really is. Little is told of us of what conditions Elias had. Whatever it was resulted in his family's mistreatment. That is until what was a very emotional interaction for myself. He explains to the player that his legs were malformed in his waking life, and he had a condition that afflicted him, multiple sclerosis, a chronic disease which affects the central nervous system. He opens up to us about how it affected him and what it is, and we are quick to offer him a form of comfort and reassurance that disabilities are not to be ashamed of, they don't define us. As someone who is disabled myself, this hit close to home, and I appreciated this interaction and how the player handles it. It honestly made me well up a bit, and I appreciated it a lot. How it was written was tasteful, and it didn't feel like they just shoved this in, which in my experience, sometimes disabilities are handled like a ball dropping and a lukewarm reaction coming from the players in some visual novels. And it's handled as if they have zero idea what a disability is, or have just never met someone with a disability before. And they meet them with this kind of pitiful response or this woe is me type reaction, and it can be very harmful. But this was handled naturally and with kindness. It isn't made out to be a big deal either, which I enjoyed a lot. After this sweet interaction, we head to our wedding, decide we want to spend the rest of our lives with the ghost, and we kiss the ghost! Woo! Yeah, baby! You have zero idea how happy finally getting to give him a little kiss made me. Though, I'll be real, since this game was marked as adult content, I'm normally used to it being right there in your face during the route itself. And these main routes go without any of this, which is of course never a bad thing. We get to it eventually, but it made me a little sad. Pause. I am 100% lying about the little part. My reaction to this was like, 2 whole routes and I'm not smashing the ghost? Bullshit. Which I'm obviously being dramatic about, but like, look at him. Look at him. Okay, unpause. This game is quick though, so it makes sense that it would be weird to just throw it in. And given we kind of have Taylor in our ear most of the game, it would definitely have little room to make it spontaneous in this story. Like, imagine you're on the phone trying to investigate a ghost, and the next thing you know, you're listening to them doing the horizontal monster mash. Awkward. But let's move on to Taylor. His route again follows the same events, but with some teasing and cute back and forthing on the phone when Elias isn't present. One point the player teases him about is his fear of clowns. You even ask him about what he would do if there was a clown servant that worked in the house and appeared, and what if he made you blueberry pancakes? I see what y'all did there. When I sighed seeing this, it made me laugh a little. I'm assuming this is a reference to another one of Snack Pop's games, Sunny Day Jack, in which Sunny Day Jack makes you a stack of blueberry pancakes. It got a little chuckle from me. I love when companies reference their own projects or games. Back to Taylor for real this time. I honestly have little to say about Taylor's route though. In all honesty, his route felt like it didn't really have much to it, outside of some banter and his clear concern for the player's well-being while they're in the mansion, regretting having put them in this situation, wanting them to leave, and of course barging in as you're about to wed Elias. If you have played through any of the other game routes before Taylor's, you know his confession always comes just before the vows happen, and he pops off on Elias to get all of this to stop, enough for the truth to come out. But there's a detail that sticks out when he pops off, and I felt it was most fitting to discuss it with his story. This being, he tells Elias about the risks of marrying someone you don't fully know. What if you don't even like each other? Unhappiness leads to divorce, and even if you stay with each other when you don't get along, it causes more harm than you wish to admit. And next thing you know, you're fighting behind closed doors where you think no one can hear you. Maybe Elias's parents did get along, but it was not the same for Taylor. He had to see the unhappiness his own parents went through as they fought so much, and he could see the pure misery on their faces growing up. Again, if you have family trauma like this can hit way too close to home. In my own opinion though, even when on his romance route, this felt so sudden. It felt like he needed this off his chest and it bled into his outburst at Elias. And it's followed up by outing their plan and his confession that he has been interested in the main character for as long as they've known each other. This whole situation made him insanely jealous that Elias was getting to be all lovey-dovey with you. This pacing was a little bit of an ick for me. It felt like, yes, Taylor had little room elsewhere to confess, but in the line of events, it felt like you just told me your trauma 2 minutes ago and then confessed to me. I also will admit, because I really wanted to kiss Elias this whole game, Taylor's snarky and silly comments towards Elias always got a "shut up, let me have this" from me. So I can openly admit I did not like Taylor. He was very cute, but not my type. He is this silly nerd who is a little awkward and seems embarrassed by himself. I may have missed some of the nuance intended for his character because of this. He is cute, but definitely just not my type. I can see him being a big hit for others though who enjoy his personality type. To finish off his route, the club disbands and we just go on to be happy with Taylor. Our final route is pretty much a both. Both is good. Instead of accepting either of them, you admit you don't know what to do or who to choose. But for Elias, it's not an easy thing to just take and move on from. He kind of has an emotional lapse, and with that, his hold on the house falters and the second floor comes down on you all. And guess what? You and Taylor both had unfinished business, you are now destined to be ghosts forever and live with Elias. Fun! So now you can all kiss! And with that, we conclude our main endings and story. You unlock a short smut scene in the extras for the honeymoon with Elias as a bonus. So let's break down what I thought of our main points. Storytelling and romanceable characters. The story was short, sweet, and to the point. It used effective pacing to tell a brief but very enjoyable story, while also throwing in these bits of emotions and all the routes to spice it up. It also had a good bit of comedic lines in it that earned a good chuckle from me here and there. All around, I think the experience this game offers, again, although short, it was fun. It was a good story that achieved what it wanted to do. I honestly would recommend it easily for this point alone. The player is self-aware enough that they don't feel like a bland, faceless protag. They take things seriously when they need to and offer witty remarks and heartfelt responses when appropriate. Elias was of course my favorite here. He was charming, sweet, and so damn cute. His story related a lot to my own experiences and made him a character I wanted to touch the heart of and explore. Taylor was a less serious and more silly counterpart though that I sadly don't think was one meant for my own tastes. He was silly and nerdy and kind of obnoxious at times. Also, it's mentioned that we know him for the fact that he smells like sweat covered up by cheap cologne at one point, and I audibly went, "Boy, take a damn shower! No! Deodorant! Don't cover it up, prevent the smell! Axe body spray is not a shower!" Oh. So, on the Sprout scale, storytelling and characters gets a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Next, artwork and visuals. Snackpop Studios has an art style to their games that is not only unique, but pretty distinct when it comes to their characters. It's one that's easy to spot and is kind of a twist on what I would say is a more Western anime cartoony style, which I honestly find pretty clean and nice in this game. The consistent use of blue and murky tones in all of the environments to complement Elias, who is our main on-screen character, made things blend really well. It gave a very good sense of consistency. Then there's the CGs and key visual illustrations, which were all very pleasing to look at, well spaced out to accent important moments without feeling too frequent, and overall, I just really enjoyed them. Moving on to character designs. The player character is faceless to allow them to be a self-insert for the players, and are only depicted with a pair of gloves given to them by Elias at the start of the game, which is a great choice, especially when we are focusing on gender customization or neutrality. I feel it's better to leave the character vague or not depict them on screen in CGs, unless you're allowing the player to make their insert character, which has also been much more present in recent games. So this just gloves thing to still show them interacting works really well. Moving on to Elias next, his design was very clean, though Jesus, he has some big honkers in that slutty waist and hips. I was taken aback more than a few times, cause damn. I love that his design got the point across well. It was simple and effective in a way that made me really love it. Also, his floating head, I don't know, I just found it cute and I wanted to grab it and just give him a kiss. My clear bias is showing here again though. Given he was a groom-to-be, his design really didn't need to do much, and I find it great that it was simple and to the point. For Taylor, his design screams weird, nerdy kid, which is indeed what he is, so it got the job done. But for me, it turned me off to his character a bit more. He's dorky and clearly a little awkward, he has an obsession with the paranormal, but I wish it would have been a little more subtle. He has a bubble vest and a t-shirt long sleeve combo. His design just doesn't appeal to me a whole lot. It just felt kind of meh, which is again just my view on him, and I know it comes from my own bias against him. I didn't hate his design, and I also didn't particularly like it. It does its job to fit his character well though. Designs I don't like don't mean they're bad by default. It still fit his character well and got the job done as it should. Art and visuals get a 4 out of 5 for me. Before I give my rating for my overall experience with this game, let's talk accessibility and inclusion. For games that offer features or options that expand upon inclusion and accessibility for their players, I will be awarding them the Hazel Star of Approval. Firstly, this game starts off with accessibility options for visuals, text, and enabling options for self-voicing/screen reading, as well as a clear-cut layout of content warnings for players to agree to. This warning is present every time the game starts up. For those who don't know here, I have a generalized reading disability accompanied by a comprehension disability, so having options to remove things like stylized text, to enlarge text, and if needed, supply myself with self-voicing options is so helpful. It makes the game experience so much smoother for myself and people who also struggle with reading and comprehension issues. Luckily, I found the base font to be very easy to read and found the extra supplied non-stylized text to be a good choice as well. Now, the warnings. I think content warnings are so important to make your games more accessible. No one wants to play a game and unknowingly be made uncomfortable or be triggered by something they did not have the time to mentally prepare for. The warnings are laid out in a way that makes them easy for players to read. On to the goal of inclusion for our player characters. We can choose how our attire is presented in-game, a suit, a dress, or simply explained as wedding attire. I may gender myself, and though I present as rather feminine in most cases, I love neutrality a lot. We can also, of course, pick our name, and then if we were a groom, bride, or someone's betrothed. We don't have a blatant choice in pronouns, it seems, but this was a nice little way to again let people pick the language they want to express themselves. We are also only referred to as bud or my dear or dearest, which I liked a lot. It got rid of that awkward blank where a player's name would be most of the time in a game like this. I like their approach to this point of neutrality for the player, so it gets my gold star for these features. Overall, I really enjoyed this game. I tend to lean more towards long-winded visual novels with lengthy stories, but this was a fun, brisk play that I feel was worth it. My final rating for this game is a 4.5 out of 5. There were small things I can nitpick, but it was overall just a blast to play and a very sweet little game. I look forward to the future projects Snack Pop Studios has to offer. Thanks for watching! If you know an indie visual novel or game project you would like me to check out next, leave it down in the comments. And if you want to see my clips from this game, check out my playthrough reel here, or in the description.